How did you crack the Akashic record egg?
Haha. Well, so I studied a lot well, what happened was my father had passed away when I was 29. So it was right at that point, 29-ish. But
That's
I had studied a lot of different things. I studied tarot cards, everything like that. Started out with reading the newspaper, I call it the horrible scopes, and just finding, okay, here's my sign, stuff like that when I was younger. But then when I got to 29, I remember I was in corporate. And I remember going into a brand new job. I was a consultant, a computer software consultant. I'd go in and basically just tie different computer systems together, programming it. And I remember writing out on a pad of paper. It was a yellow steno pad, and just writing, there must be more to life than this. And I would start to that was my first life, right? So my real life, if you will, was more understanding. I read every book in the 90s, self-help books. Um, Wayne Dyer was the biggest one with me. Carolyn Mace. I remember sitting on the couch on PBS listening to Carolyn Mace talk to you about chakras. I'm like, what is she saying? I was so depressed. I remember there was a period in my life I was so depressed, and that's what catapulted me. So I just started going through all of this. I traveled around, I took a lot of classes, and then all of a sudden it was um, something happened with me financially with a business friend. It didn't go the way that I wanted to go. And I thought, what the crap is this? Why didn't I see this? And so I started to have to go inward a little bit more. And somebody put a flyer across that said Akashic Record classes, beginning classes. I
Hmm.
said, what is this? And I said, well, I know about Edgar Casey. And Edgar Casey did the Akashic Records. And somebody here is teaching this in Chicago. And I went to it, and it was an initiation. And I know it was an initiation. I've done this before. And all that I could tell you from my own personal experience is that there was a very small group of people. We all were together in one group. And when I read this prayer, it was a beautiful prayer. It just, all that I saw was a golden light. And I won't get this out of my mind because it was an individual that I had to read. Or yeah, it was an individual that I had to read across from me. And the whole time I never saw his face. I just saw this golden light. And I was almost as if I was getting this download. And it just blew me away. And I just thought, what is this? And then all of a sudden I looked in the room and I just had information on people. And then we kind of got in this group in the circle, and it was very deep information, stuff that I didn't want to know. The energies were just so high, our vibration was so high, our frequencies were so high. And I would just look at this guy and I said, your reasons with your money issue is this, boom, boom, boom. And he was floored. And I just started going through all of this, and there was different levels of dimensions that I was actually in. I would see people that have passed on, and my teacher would say to me, Janine, bring it up, bring the energies up, because you're too low if you're at the ninth dimension where you're seeing people, the loved ones that have passed. And so I'm like, how do I do this? And she really worked with me in a lot.
Hmm.
And then I went to level 2, and then I went to level 3, and now I'm teaching it. But I didn't know how to teach it. I wasn't, this was something that was so personal to me. And so it's taken me a number of years, and I just kept hearing spirit, if you will, saying, and now is the time to teach this to others. And that's what I decided to do. But in the interim, when I was working with this one teacher, somebody came to me and said, there's a gentleman who worked with Mary Parker who came up with this Akashic record. She was the leading person that designed this, and he wants to stay. He needs a place to stay. Do you have an extra room? I had a single family room. And I said, yeah, sure. If he's out teaching this, he was doing a lot of healing. He wasn't teaching, but he was helping others, and he came and he stayed with me. And all that I could tell you is that what he taught me in 3 months that he was there just blew my mind. I was constantly seeing this golden light. I couldn't figure out what it was. I mean, I was freaking out. I really was, because it wasn't something that you would see. It would be in the peripheral of my eyes.
Hmm.
And it just was information, and the frequencies was so high with me. And his name was Ed Kami. He was out of Texas. I believe he's retired now. And that was my true teacher. It was almost as if they said, okay, you go learn this, but we're going to bring the real teacher to you. And he worked with Mary Parker, so he had the vibration from her. And so he worked with me, and he would always I had all these devices, these body scans that would pick up your frequency and your vibration and do all the stuff and get these readouts. I worked with doctors on it. And he said, "You don't need that machine. You are that machine." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I can't do that." He goes,
That-
"You know this stuff." And he would give me things. It almost could be a movie. He would give me these bits of information and walk away from me. He goes, "I got to go now," and it would make me think. And part of the Akashic records is that you have to journal a lot and you have to write it out. And so what you're doing is you're asking the question and then you're writing out the answer because you're channeling the information.
Mhm.
And so he did so much for me in a short period of time. And then, I got back into the corporate world and I continued with it. But then at one point I just said, I'm done with corporate. This is not suiting me anymore because I was chasing the paycheck and not the truth of why I was actually there. And people knew it. Corporate people knew it. There were so many walls put up for me, and that's what happens is you can only go so far because your vibration is completely different from everybody else's.
Mhm.
So, and I just started doing my own thing.
So you're relatively unemployable, right? Which is
Yes.
yeah, that's all good.
Mhm.
It's all good. That's why we all do what we do, right? And this is for those of you out there watching this. This is how you do it, right?
Mhm.
You gotta work it out like this.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, like, in today's world, from your perspective, out of everything you've seen and you're currently seeing? Okay, do you see Janine, do you see, from your perspective of this all, do you see a collective conscious movement to say things are going to get better? Or do you see it as like, you know what, listen, all right, you got the knowledge, do your own shit with it, every man for himself? Well, how do you perceive it? And that does
No, I
not
see.
mean anything about love or anything like that. I just, pragmatically speaking.
No, I see our level of consciousness is rising, and that's our ascension, right? It is our level of consciousness and it's our ascension, and we're going to still be in this body. And as long as we are in this body, we're all working together. What I'm seeing is so much unity coming together right now. And I saw this, 60s and 70s, peace, love, all this other stuff. But this particular time is, the 60s and 70s laid the groundwork for us with meditation and everything else.
True.
But it wasn't enough because we were still so deep into the matrix. At the 50s is when it started, right? It started to rear its head where the how do I put this? The deep state started to say, okay, one parent is going to work. Now they're figuring out how to get two parents to go into work, and there was a plan. There was a huge plan on their side of how to break us down. And so now that you don't have that family grouping in one stable person at home to raise you and all this other stuff. So they knew what this was. So it was but there was still a lot of people that were awake at that time, but it still wasn't enough. I think at this time, with everything that is going on, people have to question whether they're questioning the prices of gas or just the nut in the is the current resident that's in there. They have to see that there's something wrong, so you're going to start searching, right? And so where do you go is to the internet. And I think that what it has done is brought together a lot of communities on these social media sites, and people are across the country. They know who someone is from Kansas that's in that same chat, that same community. So that unity is there. And what's happening is our level of consciousness has already risen, and it's going to continue to rise worldwide. This is not just a United States thing. This is worldly. This is the Mother Earth. Mother Earth is her vibration is also rising also. The birds, the animals, anything that's breathing, that's what the Akashic is. Akasha is the ethers. Edgar Casey talked about it. If you could tap into the ethers, as above is below, you're accessing a lot of information, but you're also raising the vibration. And so I think that and next year is going to be so powerful for everybody in so many different ways on so many different levels. We are getting to a point.
Like at the breakout.
We're going to say goodbye to the world that we know. And so the new world will come in, and everybody's going to be able to be a lot happier with what is coming.
Wow.
What is your interpretation of the Matrix? But if you're looking for that instant gratification for your skin, like if you're like, you're looking in the mirror and you're like, geez, I just wish I could just go a little bit tighter, a little lift every day. This is a little this is it. You know, I said the other day, it's like everybody loves to have a great hair day, but how about having a great face day?